Today we have Ken Fury. He is director of project management. Ken was previously in more than 11 startups. And we actually gonna cover a very interesting story because Ken started his journey as a developer and transitioned to engineering manager and then transitioned to product management. We're also gonna do the resume reviews. Please drop your resume link to your resume in our Zoom chat. Let's dive in. Let's dive into your career story. Why don't you tell us from the beginning? You established your great career now. You're a director of project management, but where your journey started first?
Yeah, yeah. And just for anybody keeping score, I'm director of product. There's not a lot of project management specifically going on outside of aerospace and military anymore. But people do get the PMP and they do actually that kind of work. Mostly, I think they call themselves program managers at this point. In terms of my career, the reason Evgeny and I were talking about this is that I did a free resume review for somebody earlier this week, and this person had a pretty extensive resume as a software engineering tester. And in the first 5 minutes, he said, "But I really just want to be a product guy." And I'm like, okay, well, we could talk about that, and we don't need to talk about the resume specifically. We ended up doing a bit of both. But as I relayed this story over to my team, there was some interest in having this kind of conversation. And I'm probably a good one to have this conversation with because I have changed roles a number of times. I seem to have a fluency for transitioning, which began in long ago, too long to mention. I was a tech writer. I became an engineer. And now from there, I was promoted to engineering manager. And each time I would master a role, I start to get bored. And me being bored is bad. I set fires. It's not good. So I started looking around and said, how about product? And so I began to learn everything I could learn about product, eventually transitioned into a product manager role. And from there, it was executive leadership and product management. And I bounced back and forth between all of those things over the years, mostly in the executive side. There was a lot of operations type of leadership, a lot of product leadership, a lot of engineering leadership. And if you think this is actually a good thing in terms of being able to find jobs, no, not really. Because most recruiters, they want to see that you've been in the same kind of role for 8, 10, 12 years. And I would have a 4-year duration and bump into something else just because the company I was with wanted that. They had a need for someone to go and take over engineering because it just wasn't working out. And so I've done that and I could help. And so my empathy about helping situations turned into a lot of bouncing around between titles. In the end, I can get jobs. I get plenty of jobs. They're not always the sort of thing that you think you're going to set out to go and get, but it doesn't matter so much. What matters to me in a job is that I'm not bored, that there's plenty of challenges and lots of opportunity to help people. So that's a nutshell of my career. Anything specific you want to dig in on?
Yeah, especially transitioning is the most challenging part, right? Because people would expect from you, and actually, that is related to any kind of profession, right? In the United States, you are expected to be a certain professional. You expected to have experience, and getting your foot in the door without an experience, it's really hard. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that did you transition from engineering to engineering manager in organization, right? The same organization or okay,
Yeah. Same place.
same place. And can you tell that part when you've been transitioning, right, from engineering to engineering manager? What helped you out to get promoted? Or was it your initiative? Or can you maybe dive? I know that it was a while ago, maybe, but the most important, the key points, right?
Yeah.
What helped you to move into the management, basically?
Yeah, there's this, it's an unspoken rule, and maybe people do speak it. I'd never heard it before, but it just seemed to me to make sense. And that is that whatever job you're in, the person who has the most control over you, your career, your assignments, whether you're promoted, whether you're laid off or fired, whether you're transferred to another group, whether you're trained to something exciting, that's your boss. And if you are not doing everything you can to make your boss look great and be successful, you're hurting yourself. So, with that in mind, I made sure as an engineer, I spent a lot of time thinking about what does the boss really need from me? Asked for this, but there are these other four things that probably have to be a correct outcome. You could even go to the boss and say, hey, let me validate. If I do this and these are the four things that occur, is that actually a good thing? And of course, it'd be like, God, that would be great. That'd be delightful. Or no, you're way off track. Let me wave you away from that sucker. They'll give you the kind of feedback you need in order to do a better job from their perspective, which actually means they are doing a better job from their boss's perspective. And if it all lines up and the company is doing better as the way it should, it's not always the case, but it's the way it should line up, then all of that actually falls in place really well. So my first law is full of energy, full of initiative to help my boss look better and get the kind of kudos that boss will need to transition his or her career. And that transitions into the kind of kudos I need to transition my career. And so having that kind of sensitivity to my boss's concerns, and it turns into much larger things where the boss's peers may not agree, and I could go in there and have the right conversations. I learned how to influence that way. I learned how to convince. I learned how to do deal brokering. Almost every exchange with somebody who you don't have as a direct report is actually a moment where you can leverage some kind of deal. You can bribe people, literally. You do this, I'll do that. You can actually bargain. If you can actually back off on this one thing, I think we're gonna get some oxygen, but just wait 3 weeks. Give me this time. Let's see if we can do something real with it. And if not, I'll drop it forever. And that shows a certain amount of broader perspective, more strategic perspective that was very welcome in that particular company and in many I've been in. It's not welcome in every company. A big company, which I'm in now, not valuing that so much, which is something I have to cope with. But when you show that strategic perspective and ability to think and the initiative to go and get things done so that your boss actually doesn't have a bunch of headaches, that actually puts them well more in mind of a promotion. And let me say also, I started out by saying it was unknown at the time that your first job is to make your boss successful. But a lot of the time, we think about it in a sense of let's get the boss what the boss is asking for. Just take it to the next level and look around and see, use your empathy to figure out what's really going on here and how can I smooth these things over so my boss never has to touch it. Solving problems, giving the boss solutions before they're asked for, nothing better from a boss's perspective. Somebody comes to me and does that if I'm the boss. And it's just, wow, where did you come from? That's the best thing I've heard in a week. I'm so glad you did this. Do more of this. And we can even talk about it in advance. And so that is how every transition that I've made in my career has occurred, is by me taking a specific interest in more than just here is my track and this is what I have to do to be successful.
I can tell you like 100% agree, because I think 100% like this is the only way, because what I'm seeing in it's related to corporate America and startups, and what I see is usually are stuck in with their specific role, like with their, okay, I am an engineer, I'm working on this project and on this specific features, nothing else, I don't really care. So this is mindset limited, very limited. And from, I would say, from managers, from owners, from stakeholders, it's actually very hard to find people who actually taking more responsibilities. Obviously, it should be, this is a dilemma, right? Someone will tell me, you don't pay me enough to get those responsibilities, right? And but at the same time, if you see this person who going above and beyond their like responsibility, their like the line of everyday tasks, and they taking responsibility, actually ownership, not responsibility, but the ownership.
Ownership.
Ownership
Ownership.
is, I think, this is, you cannot buy. This is literally, you cannot buy the ownership. If you care, if you don't care, you can take the responsibility, but you cannot the same. I don't want to go deeper to that, but you just pinpointed the most important part.
I can tell you as a boss, there are moments when I'm confronted with somebody who really just wants to paint between the lines and get paid. And that's fine. That's great. I don't have a problem with that.
Yep.
But there is another person who is actually solving some of my problems as she goes. And when an opportunity arises, and it always does, somebody resigns. My right-hand lieutenant, I'm the director. I needed a staff PM, and that staff PM has resigned. And it's time for somebody to take responsibility with direct reports. The first person I'm going to think of is that one who's been offering herself to help me with my situation beyond her job. But let's also be clear, you have to do your job first. You can't let any of that slide. I'm talking about beyond that. Yeah. So do your job. Absolutely do your job. And the hope is you can finish that in 30, 32 hours each week. What do you do with the rest of that time? That's really the question. And if you're helping your boss be a better boss, then when the moment comes, you're in the right place at the right time. And you can even express your desire. You know what? I would love to do this. I'd love to be a part of what you're doing. No, I don't have experience, but I'm trying to show you right now that I'm going to be great at that work. When the time comes, if you're interested in taking a chance on me, and I've had that conversation from both sides.
Let's switch gears towards to product management. So a lot of folks who are engineers, and actually including myself, I had this kind of thinking, where should I go in my career? Being a software test engineer at one organization, I was thinking, should I move towards to product management, or should I move towards just in the engineering? So you've been in both sides. What do you think you should expect as an IC, as an engineer, or as a newbie who want to get into the product management? What they should expect, pros, cons of this profession?
I love that question. It's a great role. And I'll tell you why I think so. You already heard, I don't like being bored. And with a product role, you're never bored. You're never doing the same thing 1 hour after another. And for me, that's very suitable. The important thing is, as a product person who has overarching responsibility for how this thing everybody's building plays out into success, it's a really big deal. I think of it as being the hub of a spoked wheel. So think of a wagon wheel with all the spokes that go into the middle,
Mhm.
and there's support, there's engineering that actually makes sure that the wheel stays together when it has stress from the outside. It's all transitioned into the hub, and then it's evened out as it goes back outward. It touches every part of the business. So you can't just be a one-trick pony. You have to look down every spoke and understand, here are the problems that these people are facing. It's also great for somebody who keys on empathy like I do. They're facing this. How am I, as the product person, going to help them to actually solve their situation? And then you move to the next spoke, and it's the same thing with a different problem set. Operations, sales ops, sales enablement, sales people, marketing, engineering, everybody has a stake in what you're doing, but you actually don't have any control over any of them. As you're thinking about the product role, it can be very frustrating from the perspective of, if that person just did this one thing, my job would be so much easier. And I could move this whole product to success. If that person isn't doing that one thing, sure, maybe they're stubborn. Sure, maybe they actually want you to fail. Most likely, you're not hearing them. There's something that they're concerned about that you haven't found a way to alleviate. So go talk to that person. It forces you out of your hermit existence, which was hard for me as an engineer. I love hermiting, but it forces you to go have the conversations and to spend more time listening than you do talking. And by listening all around the board and really figuring that out, that actually is the product role more than anything else. You can do market research. You can learn everything there is to learn about how your product is going to work in the market and be successful. And you're going to fail miserably unless each part of the wheel on the end of those spokes is also a part of your solution. So this isn't something that's easy to go and take some classes and get certified for. That's happening a lot nowadays. A lot of certifications. I used to teach that. I used to teach that for the product school. People go through that. They take tests, they learn the tricks and the tools of how to be a PM. But the actual gist of the job is that transition of energy and the communication that is necessary in order for the entire wheel to be part of the solution. So it has more to do with your perspective when you come to your job every day. than it does anything else. And what I was saying about being somebody who makes your boss look better, if you want to be a PM, you start that way, and then you just keep expanding your horizon. You may not be a PM, but you need to understand what is the stake that the operations and procurement team is taking in the things that I'm doing. Go and learn how to understand that. Talk to people. Why did we do it this way? Could there have been some other way? Start asking questions, start broadening that understanding, and learn to collect evidence that actually helps you to convince people to the point of view that you have formed through listening. And so if you do that as an engineer or as a tester, and you start broadening your horizons, all the tools of being a PM are learnable. You can go and actually, you can learn Mixpanel, you can learn all the various products pieces, product board. Those tools are very trainable. What the company expects from PMs, very trainable. And none of it has much to do with actually being successful in the job. So if people ever ask me, how do I make that transition? I say, start listening. And another thing is, if you're an exemplary employee, if you've done really well and your boss thinks highly of you and you've made your boss look golden, she can't get enough of you because you've helped her in so many different ways. If you can create that situation, go to the boss. Hey, boss, I'm really interested in product management. That looks like the kind of role where I would have influence into every part of the organization and learn everything there is to learn about running a company. I'm not a PM. I know that. I've got this job and I'm happy to be doing it. But if there's an opportunity for me to shadow somebody in that role, I'm all in. I would love to try that, even as a corollary, something else, some small part of my day. I actually worked with a guy in my former company who took that initiative and started helping product people with a lot of their nuts and bolts stuff, spreadsheets and reports. And he was such a hard worker. I couldn't have recommended him more in so many ways. He became an assistant PM just out of his own volition and energy. And then, because this is the way it works with jobs, he took another job where he was an actual PM. Getting your company to promote you that far, that's hard because they see you a certain way. This guy was doing this 6 months ago. I'm going to turn him into a PM and pay him all that money? No. He got another company to pay him all that money and make him a PM. And that worked really well for him. I was very happy for him. And he seems to be very happy with what he's doing. It's not an easy transition. It actually means you have to take your blinders off and really understand your company's situation and the kinds of things that will make it successful. And there is no part of the company that's off limits. You need to learn how to do market research. It's not as easy as going onto ChatGPT and saying, tell me all the competitors to this product. It's not as easy as it seems. There are many questions that are very hard to put across correctly so that you actually get an unbiased answer and an honest one. Anyway, I could go on about all this for quite a while, but let me take a breath and give you a chance.
Definitely, I would say the easiest way to get into that would be transition within the company, right? I would ask maybe tough question because I know that there is no straight answer, but still, what do you think for those who, for example, they know that they don't want to transition within their organization? Maybe they just started, they don't have this position opening, or anyway, there could be many reasons why they cannot transition within the company. Maybe they don't have the job, right? So is it possible to get a job as a product management manager without an experience? If how the person can, I would say, get into that?
So it's a great question. There are intern type roles or assistant type roles that you can get into without experience, especially if you're able to work through a behavioral interview, which are really critical for product managers. If they ask you, well, tell me about a time when you had to influence part of the organization, your point of view, that's every day as a product person. You should have 100 stories come to mind, right, with that particular question. Train yourself in the ways that I've been talking about, and it will be easier to talk your way into those sort of things. But I will say it's always easier to convince your current boss who loves you to take a small chance on you than it is to convince a company who's got 100 other applicants with 3 years, 5 years, 8 years product management experience to take you instead. That's a very hard call. That was a really good question. If you don't mind, we can talk about it. Anonymous, tried asking this question to shadow others, but this is taken as I don't have enough to do. Yeah, you actually gave your boss the impression that you might not be great at your role. And it really has to begin with, I'm happy in my role, I'm doing great. It's filling my day, but I will work extra hours to try and open a door 6 months or a year from now. So it's not about pay me to learn how to be a PM. It's about I will take the initiative to do whatever it takes to gain this training while I continue to make you proud of me and to actually experience the kind of success that I'm helping you to achieve. So that's the underlying message. But yeah, make sure if you're having that conversation with your boss, that the boss does not have any reason to fear your current situation. It's a bad moment for a boss. Somebody comes to you and says, I want to do this other thing, but I had actually a whole year full of planning with you right where you are. What am I going to do about that now? So you've just brought to your boss a big problem, something that he or she is going to have to solve if you transition. You don't want to trigger that reaction in a boss. It's more about, I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm working full time at it. I'm giving it my all. Okay, but I still have a Saturday. I still have a weekend. And I could do some of this work on a weekend if I have a chance to do this other stuff in the meanwhile. It's a little bit dicey, but if they've seen and witnessed you taking extra time to learn things, to be of use, they're more inclined to say, all right, that isn't going to hurt me if I do that. And I'd love to throw you a bone. I'd love to actually give you something that you can chase. You ready to go to resume reviews? All right. And Lazarus, you're on and listening? Yes, sir. Okay, he chatted. Okay, so I'm sure my partner will have a lot to say as well, but I can start it. So let me tell you philosophically, the way I think about resumes is someone who's hired hundreds of people, and it's even worse now with hundreds of resumes coming for every job opening. It's drowning in a sea of words. And that means that perspectives on these have changed over the course of a decade. It used to matter really what you had and how much of it that you had in your resume in terms of really real descriptions of the things that you've done. Right now, it's actually more about how do you give the hiring manager the least amount of work to do to really understand who you are and where you have been. So within about 20 seconds of looking at a resume, I want to know, does this person have the right background and experience? Has this person shown me how organized he or she is through what they have presented in? And am I seeing anything that would be a red flag? Because most of the time with recruiters and with hiring managers, because there's so many choices, the actual job is give me a reason to say no. If I can find a reason to say no, that's one less thing I have to worry about, and you can throw it out. And anybody who's been applying to jobs recently can probably vouch for that. It's almost all no's. It's 1 in 10,000 resumes that are submitted that actually get a callback if there's no referral. You've seen that, right, Evgeny?
100%.
Yeah. Lazarus, let me say, actually, I really like what you have here. I think that there is some excess that we can talk about but one of the things that people often forget primarily is just go ahead and put in the title of the thing that you're applying for. And you did, Director of Product Management. So my first thought as someone hiring a Director of Product Management is, okay, I want to think of Lazarus as a Director of Product Management. Let me glance real quick at the job titles. He's never actually done it before. He's reaching. Okay, let's see if there's reason for Lazarus to reach. And so I might actually dig into some that are close, product management manager of IT, and see if I can see director-like activities in that experience. Understand, if you're reaching, that's what I'll be doing. I'm going to be looking to validate that you're a legitimate candidate for the role you're telling me. If you're not reaching, and you have done this job for, let's say, 3 to 5 years, it's actually a different set of questions that as a hiring manager, I would have. In this case, it's a reach, and let's talk about it from that perspective. You have some design going on here, which is pretty, but it is actually just you spending time on things that aren't helping you. And I'll tell you why. Most of the time, this stuff actually gets exported into text. That's what AI has the easiest time parsing. It's what the recruiting systems have the easiest time ingesting into themselves. And if there are design elements and columns and other formatting types of things, underscores, it actually creates confusion and it's a bad conversion. So for example, if you have the link profile and it's a link and it's underscored, a system is going to look at what you have for under employment history, which is also underscored, and it's going to think it's a link, but there is no link. So that actually will cross up the system, and it probably downgrades you, maybe not. But one way or another, understand, if you format this as if it were just going to get thrown into a text file, then you've increased your chances of a good import into a recruiting system so that everything you've said about yourself shows up properly. And yeah, so that's why I say don't do columns. And columns are actually really nice to the human, really not nice to the AI parsing tool. With the profile, yeah, I almost never learn anything useful in a profile because I'm most concerned about, could this person be a director of product management? So the profile is just in my way and I skip right over it automatically. The thing that I'm hoping to see right away are the skills. Have you coded? Have you been using these tools? Are you an expert in Selenium? Have you been using product board? Have you been actually using other types of tools? Do you have other skills, negotiation, influence, leading through influence, any kinds of those things? You probably do have skills. Oh no, you don't have a breakout with skills. Okay, that's something to do. Instead of profile, I would have a section that's titled skills. And in there, bullet list, even in columns, that's okay, but a bullet list of a bunch of your skills that are applicable to being a director of product management. I'm not sure also why you have San Francisco there, because you're either going to be applying as a remote or as a local or as a hybrid. So if someone's in San Francisco, they already know. And so there, I had to read a word I didn't really want to read. I'm very generous about that as a hiring manager. Not many are because they're going through hundreds of these every day. So that's really tricky. So a skills section, the employment history, I'm actually much more concerned about your, not the whole history. I don't want every detail. I like it that you've only got 3 or 4 bullets for each of these points. But the bullets themselves, I'd like you to think about an opportunity, each one of those, to indicate your impact to the company. Centara had you as manager of IT and product management, and you did these 4 things. You do have something in there, 20% reduction in product escalations. That's perfect. That should be there for every bullet item. Something like that, some way to say the company was better because I was there. I've been talking a lot. Do you have specific questions you'd like me to address? I'm not paying attention to the Q&A.
Lazarus, I can move you to, I can give you, you can talk. You can unmute yourself and you can ask questions.
Thank you. Check if you can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much so far for your recommendations. Common things that you don't really think about because it's your own work.
Yeah. It's so hard to get out of your own head, isn't it?
It is, and I appreciate your thoughts on the profile section as well as San Francisco. I just moved here, so I was like, I want to show that I am open to San Francisco because a lot of my previous says Virginia Beach. So that's where I was with that. But I do also like what you said about the skills because honestly, I'm like you. I skip over the profile section when I'm hiring as well. Yep, didn't even think about it when I was doing my own.
Yeah.
As far
Yeah.
as the manager IT and product management section, the company didn't have a product manager position, an IT director of product manager position. So they were still forming. I was actually their first product owner they ever hired, then created a whole product management train under me. First started with hiring more product owners, then hired more product managers, became the guider for those product managers, which then led me to become that manager of IT for product management here at Centera. So I didn't quite know how to put that into words because it is a large healthcare company, but at the same time, it's a healthcare company that was brick and mortar that was going digital. Some of the stuff that I did was like, when I came on board, it was like a 2.8 and a 1.8 on the app stores. And we brought that to a 4.5, 4.8 together with all the stuff that we've been doing. There's a lot of
Okay.
that I could touch on, but I don't know where to focus.
Everything you just said, is more important than what you have written. And
Got it.
do you see why I say that? You're applying to be a director of products. The first thing I'm going to want to know is, did you have product people who you hired, who you put into position? How did it go when you did those things? And you just told me in a nutshell. Yes, you actually started the whole train of it. Okay, that's a great first bullet. Began the train of product management at Centaura. The results of it were this: hired 7 people, we improved the app's ratings by this much. Those sort of things that are very concrete, things that you accomplished specifically, are so very important. It doesn't necessarily make you a director, but it actually lends itself more toward that perspective than it takes away from it.
I appreciate that. And also, as far as because I want to have you keep going down, can you scroll down just a little bit? I also own my own nonprofit, and I don't know how to speak about the work that I do there that also shows, hey, not only am I a great product manager, but I'm able to work with startups as well, and that I'm not afraid of taking risks, basically.
Yeah. So in the skills that we've been discussing, the
Mhm.
skills section, you could actually list yourself as a startup leader who has received funding for his own nonprofit and say how much,
And then
right?
would you separate the skills out by like technical and then, I don't know, emotional or professional skills? How would you do that?
Yeah, I would actually group the technical ones together. And with bullet lists, the AI parsers tend to have an easier time across columns. You don't want to take up huge amount of space with those skills, but you can do 2 columns or 3 if you must.
Got it. And would you put
And
those right where the profile section is? Because it's
yeah,
AI.
it's the first thing.
All right,
And if you've
cool.
had experience with AI, that's actually really important right now. We're
Good.
looking for that, and now throwaway resumes when it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I totally get it. Can you scroll up just a little bit as well? So I'm in my mind for my recap of what I'm gonna probably be doing. If you wouldn't mind, scroll to the top. I'm gonna be getting rid of the San Francisco part. That should increase a little bit of that line spacing. Getting rid of the profile section, renaming that as skills, and then probably go with a triple column because it seems wide enough to for skills. And the LinkedIn, I'm thinking I could probably squeeze that in as part of the header where the phone number, email is as well.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
then,
And
this is a contact information. So you put it just on one line, you will definitely will save real estate on your resume. Same thing, you can put the San Francisco part in your, yeah, just put it in one line. It will be readable and will be clear enough. So
okay.
I
And then,
wouldn't worry. I wouldn't worry about it. But in actually profile or summary, yeah, I know that folks like technical, not technical, but hiring managers, they don't usually read it once they landed this resume on their table. But for recruiters, they do read it. And for them, they have usually recruiters, they have specific tasks, they have specific requirements. I need a director of product management from specific industries, and preferably like from startups or from big tech or from,
got it.
again, like from specific industries. So I would really outline like the what type of position you are targeting, or if you
Yeah,
want to stick into the health tech, you probably should highlight
got it.
this in the profile. Yes. So for me as a recruiter, it would be much more easier to identify, oh, this guy, yes, even he haven't been a director of product, but he have been as a director and leadership in this industry specific, and this is what I'm looking. But because of, and it's a bias industry, so when we got the requirements, we're looking for director of product management. We usually look into the titles, unfortunately or unfortunately, but that's how it is.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, so in terms of like director of product management, is your resume stand out better than others? Questionable, but this is where you can put your strengths and making more convincing. Oh, okay.
No, I
so
like that advice as well. So maybe I could change up the formatting a little bit, make the profiles and employment history type headings smaller and single line it, and then be able to accommodate all of that as well.
yeah, and I wouldn't worry if it floats into a second page. That's almost irrelevant when things are electronic.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
So
right, because we could just take it and throw it into an AI and say, should I hire this person based off of my requirements, or
it's
should I
happening
interview
more and
them?
more often.
Yep.
Yeah. what my partner here said actually spurred a conversation that we've been having a lot, which is, what does it take for Lazarus to get his resume into your hands as a recruiter? And that's the trick, especially if it's a stretch. If you haven't been a director of product, but you're applying for it. If you don't have a referral from somebody who is trusted in that organization that you're applying for, the odds of it getting into Evgeny's hands is actually really slight. Is that correct, Evgeny?
Would it be better for me to have two resumes then? One that's a manager of product management, and then a second one that's a director of product management. Technically, to say the same thing, but the one that would be for the manager would go into the recruiter's hands where I don't have a referral, whereas the ones that I do have a referral for from different sources go straight to.
Yes. And I would say that for everything you apply to, unless you have a referral and you know exactly what's going on, you should change that title to whatever it needs to be to get the interview.
Which title?
Your title, Director of Product Manager.
Okay.
It actually, there's some very well-paying jobs that are just senior PM. Because
Correct.
people don't want to give you direct reports until they really know who you are. That's okay. They're going to pay you the money anyway, and you get to grow into it. You can tell when you read the job descriptions when that's actually a possibility. So I would absolutely apply for senior PM type roles, as well as group or staff. Those are upward facing positions that have direct reports but aren't director level. Any of those things can get you in the door where you can blow people's minds and work your way up. Yeah. And that might be a better strategy for you than actually having a title on next to your name, which is not repeated in any of the titles below.
No, I agree. That was great feedback because, yeah, it sets you up for, okay, he wants to be director of product management. Like you said, is he a contender? No, he's somebody who's an underdog reaching up to get to the top. Can he do it? Probably. But is it right on the page? I have to dig for it. So I totally see where you're coming from.
Got it. Okay. I think we've said as much pertinent stuff as we can without overloading it too much. Evgeny, another.
Only 4 days worth of homework. I'm kidding.
I know. Sorry.
And I want to highlight one more thing. We do the free resume reviews in person as well. So jump into the call. I'll post the link in our chat here as well in a few sec. Ken is actually a part of our coaches in our interview mentors that work. So join to our coaching group. It's going to be private coaching group, and we're going to do the free resume reviews if you guys still need some help.
Yeah, you want a half hour specifically on your resume and what you're trying to do with it. It's a great way to go. And if it turns out you really need much deeper type of coaching, that's great too. But we have paid options because we can't give away everything. But yeah, you got to bring something to the table in that case. But nonetheless, happy to help.
Thank you, Lazarus.
Well done, man. Appreciate it.
Totally. All right, we have a second resume. I am able to, let me share my screen now.
Hi
Hi.
guys, thank you so much for doing this. This is incredible. Ken and Kim, this is incredible. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, my name is very hard to pronounce. My name is Evgeny.
I didn't want to mess it up.
I know, that's totally fine. Anyway.
I fumble it every other time that I say it. Sorry about that. Okay, were you present and were you listening as we talked to Lazarus?
I was listening, yes.
Okay, so starting out, and Evgeny, actually, I should offer you an opportunity. You want to dig in first? You're welcome to.
First of all, tell us, please, what position you are looking for.
I'm looking for a product manager position, but I'm currently in a role that mandates wearing different hats as a product owner, as a product manager, as a program manager. So it's like one and all kind of position.
We are neighbors. You live in Orange County?
Yeah, I'm in Irvine.
Me too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, again, like what just Ken mentioned in a previous resume review, it's good to have like your title for which one you are looking for, the position that you are looking, right? So I'm not gonna guess, are you looking for product manager or project manager from the previous positions, right? I believe it's like PDF from Dropbox thingy. The styling is very weird, to be honest. but I think it's I think it's a PDF thing.
So what is the best way for me to fix this? Because this is what I'm using to send out for my applications. Is there a template that I can use, or like what do you feel should be fixed in the styling?
Yeah, there's millions of templates, but I think it looks like it was copy paste from some, I don't know. You see the cells?
Yeah, so the boxes.
Boxes. Yeah, this is, I don't know. Do you see it on your end as well, Pretty?
Yeah, I do, but I think this is a Dropbox thing because when you
Yes, that's what that's what I'm thinking. It's a probably Dropbox again.
Yeah, I find it easier just to use Google Docs. It's stored online. I can access it from anywhere, and they have hundreds of resume templates, and you can drop it in
And they
there.
will be all the same, right? They won't have this styling issue on different platforms.
Yeah. So for my own resume, it's in Google Docs. It's just the most translatable format.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just pay a fortune for Dropbox. So just try to use that. Yeah.
There's lots of opinions out there.
True.
You're doing
Very
great.
true.
Doing great, Evgeny. Keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah, the summary, it looks pretty clean and concise. 10 years of experience in product management, highlighting that gives me an idea that if I would be looking for product management, I would be okay. Again, with the specific requirements, right? Also, it would be nice to have like in what industry are you in, specific tech industry targeting yourself, or just open for it's very hard to judge or to give an advice on generic resume. And obviously, when you more targeting to a specific role, to specific industry, the better it is. I just give you an example. I had a client who was looking for product manager in fintech specifically, nothing else. So if I would be looking to the resume and it was like very hard specific requirements to not to bypass, I would be looking into that. Okay. It's easier if you specify here, but if not, then I would be looking into here in the experience itself. And for example, New American Funding doesn't really says to me what it is, right? I have to read line by line and try to figure it out. Is it what I'm looking or not? Really would be helpful if you can specify the industry or highlighting the product where you've been working on. Because if it's not a big name or if it's not well-known name, right? From New American Funding, I'm guessing, okay, it's something related to funding, something related to finances.
It's a mortgage company, actually.
There we go.
But I actually moved from, I was in the marketing tech team, and then I moved into the RPA bot team. So that's where I am currently. There's not like a set team that I can put in over there, but I see what you're saying. So including like the division of the company and just a product line of the company would help.
Really would help, like what the company is. Is it fintech? Is it, like in general? And then if you can specify the marketing or like specific, not the industry, specific division that you've been working.
Gotcha.
You don't need to have all put in this one line, or you can do it, but very, very in very short. But
Right.
again, like the easier to understand what is the company, what you've been doing this without getting into the details. It's better you have chances to make me read this resume, right? Yeah. Other than that, I definitely see you experience folk and awards and certification. In terms of structured, I think it's really good structured. Skills, awards, and certification.
Yeah, I have some recommendations to make.
Let's do this, Ken.
Okay. The section at the top, which is summary and accomplishments, all of that can get translated into a skills section. For example, a skill could be aligning business and technology needs, and a skill could be B2B and B2C experience. A skill could be 10 years product management. And unless you're applying for a job in project management, I wouldn't mention it. You've got the titles down below, but it's not something you're applying for right now. Starting from the beginning, yeah, I want to see a title next to your name. I want to see how you see yourself. Maybe it's in there, actually. It's been redacted, but that's okay. If you want to actually a product management role, you can actually say product manager or senior product manager or product owner right under your name so that people associate you with that particular title. And yeah, and then just moving in. I don't really want to read all that in the summary as a hiring manager. I really want to know specifically, where has she been? What has she done? How long did she spend doing this? And even things like waterfall, that doesn't tell me anything. I think everyone's done waterfall if they're older than a 10-year career. And you could just say traditional or not even mention it, because Agile and Scrum are about all that people are looking for, except maybe in fintech. So if it's a fintech company or a defense-related company, government-related company, you can include waterfall, that you might actually eliminate the word Scrum, where they don't use that so much. So I'm suggesting that for every job you apply for, there's some amount of customization you should do to your resume so that it really fits the role you're applying to. That's not just to get past all of the bots that will prowl through resumes before it gets into Evgeny's hands. That's actually for the hiring manager as well, who is, I've got this glove and I need a hand that goes right into it perfectly. And is this my person? And if the answer is, well, then it's out the door. So don't give people reasons to say no. Give them reasons to keep going. And by customizing, you actually have a better opportunity with that. In the first experience that you've got, you listed several things in there that are very specific about the skills that I'm talking about. The fifth one, work closely with engineering and QA team to clarify requirements. Okay, the skill is defining or eliciting requirements. And that says everything you've already said in that bullet with so many fewer words. And then let's talk also about the amount of text that you put in for any particular job. And remember, my position is the hiring manager. It's not the lead recruiter, right? And that's why both of us actually can give you all sorts of conflicting advice and leave you unable to move forward. You should really only have 3 to 5 bullets on your very first, most recent experience, and that actually is going to carry the most weight with me as a hiring manager. Everything else is 3 and no more than 3, and they should specifically have impact. I want to know what exactly occurred because you did this activity, and you've got some of that in there. You're talking about serving 250,000 active users, but it's a little buried. And you got totaling 1.2 million on the third bullet down. Yeah, that should be the punch at the end of a very short statement for each of those bullet items is, I was there, and because I was there, this. And then you stop talking. And so you really just think of it almost as you're gonna hit them hard in the forehead with this particular point because of the amazing impact you had. If you'll scroll down, please. So all of these others should only be about 3 bullets. And yeah, most of those are skills like UI, UX discovery data, A/B testing, right? These are things that you've done. And it's important to me to know that you've done those things without having to go and read a lot of text in order to understand. If you say you can do it, I can ask you if I'm talking to you. Well, all right, let's talk about A/B testing. Tell me about a time when you used it to prove a specific strategic path for your product. And you have an opportunity to really talk about the prototypes and where it went and how deep you went and the kind of results you got. In the resume, I just need to know that you've actually are claiming that's one of your skills. All the way to the bottom now. So again, 3, 3, and 3. Now the education and certification is least important to me. And if you've been listening to me for the past hour, it's because I'm far more about what did you actually do as opposed to what do you think you're certified to do. Certifications are easy to acquire. The jobs that we're talking about are very hard to conduct. So the skills go up to the top. I would put awards and certifications ahead of education. That's more important to me, that somebody said, this person is better than all the rest who work with her. And here are the ways that actually came to be, that manifested. Usually there's only 2 or 3 of those things. The fact that you have so many, oh, you're listing certifications in there, those actually would be educational. To the product school? Huh, I was a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do attend their webinar still. I love it. I totally love it.
They know what they're doing from a procedural point of view. But I actually wrote a lot of their curriculum when I was an instructor so that we could focus on what the role really requires of people and the hard part about doing it. But anyway, that's an aside.
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
all the certifications, and the hiring manager is going to think of a certification as education. So they shouldn't be in the awards. The award of excellence is what I'm looking to see in that kind of section. So the last thing of all would be education. I want to know about the awards more than I want to know about what college you went to. Unless you went to Harvard, in which case I would never hire you.
Why would
I've
that
hu-
be, Ken?
I've hired a lot of people from Harvard, and
Uh-huh.
many people you meet in the world think they're the smartest person in the room. The
Mhm.
ones from Harvard have been told many times that they are, but there's so many different kinds of smart.
Yeah.
You can be smart about engineering and really dumb. That's been my experience with Harvard.
Could not agree
I,
more. Could not. Yes.
I hope to be proven wrong. If anyone's a Harvard grad, come at me because I'd love to have that conversation. But yeah, just because you went to Harvard doesn't make you the smartest person in the room in every way that intelligence manifests. So talk about EQ, which I actually think is more important in the workplace, is a place where many in Harvard haven't really thought to go, so far as I know. Okay, so those are my nutshell recommendations. Questions?
I would also add to awards and certification. I would really keep maybe 3 of that you are the most proud of. Because, for example, Udemy certification, it tells me you was just watching them and how to get the Udemy certification. You just play a button and that's pretty much it. So are you really proud of it? That's what I would ask, right? Because there is probably a lot of stuff that you are proud of and a lot of stuff you was just put it as a filler. I would remove all this stuff because if I would put my Udemy courses that I passed here, I would have another resume just for that. So for that reason, I would just keep as I know that AWS certification is hard to get as well, for example, but
Yeah, that's tough.
yeah, so put it here. I'm not sure about the product school, how you get this certification there. Is it valuable? I'm not sure. You pay, you will probably get this certificate anyway.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not that hard. That's what I'm saying. So it's not something that again, keep it as you really proud of. That's really you put the effort to get something here. And anything else, just it's not that important.
Got it.
Questions, Preeti?
Question.
What I hear you say is can move my certifications to the education and certifications part and then leave the awards and move the awards up above the education as well,
Yep,
right? Okay.
right.
Okay, will do.
I would even
But
put the skills on the top after the summary.
yeah,
Like,
I was gonna ask that next if I should move my skills above over there. I
Yeah.
also feel I do have good working relationships with my dev team and a tech understanding, but not necessarily like an engineering background. So to me, sometimes I feel low thinking, oh my gosh, how do I portray that I am at the bar where I can do this and I can provide like a good engineering or a dev knowledge to my hiring manager.
I would actually advise that in the skills, or you say 10 years product management, including technical PM responsibilities. You didn't have the title, but you actually were functioning in a more technical capacity than a typical PM. As a hiring manager, I'll read that correctly. I'll understand that you actually have an ability to engage with your engineering team on a technical level, and that sets you apart.
Got it. Thank you.
hold on, let me ask you a question. Isn't it something that you're supposed to do as a product manager, right? Because you're a person, mediator between engineering team and the stakeholders. So it's something, how to say, it's not that obvious that you're supposed to do that. I know that there's technical PMs, there's non-technical PMs, right? If you want to emphasize the tech part of you, probably you should just put it somewhere in your experience that you've been as a technical PM and you've done so then you don't need to anywhere to clarify these things. So it's kind of part of your job. That's what I'm saying.
Got
Yeah,
it.
it goes both ways. There's a lot of PMs, especially those who are coming through certification programs, are not technical. And they don't need to be if there is a strong technical lead on their team. That person can advise the PM on right and wrong, good or bad. Any of those matters. That's why I say she would stand out with real technical capability that isn't as common as you might guess. And it's actually very important The respect of the engineers is hard to get if you're not technical. And that means that your job is a lot harder than somebody who has the technical experience. Now, on the flip side of it, technical PMs tend to get caught up in the technical concerns and not do their PM job. And that's a real problem too. There is a balance between it all. Yeah, I agree with you, Evgeny, except I say that put it in the skills because that's the first thing I'm going to read as a hiring manager. I want to know you're technical because that's a really good differentiator.
Ken, you're absolutely right. And this is the dilemma that I face because I understand both sides of how empathetic a product person should be and how technical knowledge should also be there. But it should not act as a blocker to a deliverable or to launch a product. And to your point, that's the balance that I want to show, that I come with that balance. I see a lot of people coming from the dev background turning into product managers, but they kind of lack that empathy part and the part where they're just hung up on the technical issues that are over there. And we don't even end up launching the MVP, forget about the deliverable. I feel like a product manager's job is to bring that balance.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. That was very brave of you. Let us go through there. I hope it didn't hurt.
Oh no, if at all, it actually helped. I'll be working on the version 2 and probably would want to run by you guys again. So thank you so much for the critical feedback, and I take it all in my stride.
Yeah, join guys to our private coaching group session. I'll put the link down below and take a look on definitely for all product managers and engineering managers. I would highly recommend to let me put the link right now to the insights as well.
I'll just drop that one.
Just
Yeah,
drop it.
because a lot of my philosophy, and maybe you want to dig a little deeper and understand why I'm so weird, I write articles for empathicinsights.com, and you can actually see more in depth with me and also another one of our partners, Eugene, who's brilliant. Anyway, you can look in there and you may find some things that are helpful. Sorry to interrupt you.
Nope, totally. You just says what I want to say. And interview mentors, take a look on that too. And yeah, that would be it. And I'll see you guys in the next 2 weeks. And have a good the rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.